Oh boy, we got the dance music going, and I think there was a lot of dancing going on with the officiating yesterday. We'll get into all the topics. We'll talk about the Canadian Football League first. We'll just touch it a little bit because I love a lot. I think a lot of excitement for what happened in that game yesterday. People like myself that are rooting for that team, that red team, that Kansas City team, are very happy with the outcome. But it didn't. I'm hearing some things. I'm hearing some things that aren't very complimentary about the officiating. Now, last time we talked about this, we were, we got into the little. You felt KC got some breaks. So did it continue this weekend?
It did. I don't think that was the only reason that they were able to come. Like in a game that close, it certainly helps. I don't think it was the only reason they won that game, but I also think that it didn't hurt their chances.
Yes, definitely didn't hurt their chances. Definitely, there were two plays in particular: the downed football, what I'll call the downed football, and the fourth and what had to be inches. Fair? Those two were probably the loudest ones that.
Yeah, those were definitely the two. Like especially that fourth down play, right? Because of the time of the game and where Buffalo were, and they lost by possession.
That's right. It was a one-score game again for Kansas City. That play there. The announcers made it very Romo. I know a lot of people don't like him. But I do. I think he's very good, and I think he's, as he proved yesterday, he's ahead of the officials too. Like you mentioned stuff before the officials was like that goal line stand where we had a little bit of gamesmanship going on, where the constant movement, which then raised the question of what the officials can do, and that is award a TD. What did you think of that?
It was very frustrating. I mean, if I was the Commanders, obviously they felt like, okay, like can we snap the football? Like it was getting to the point of that, but it was also like that player just needs to stop doing that, right? Like stop going over. And I think like the NFL needs to police that a little bit better, because what, it happened once. Okay, shame on me. If it happens again,
and then what about like fourth time? Yeah,
we're not doing like, why allow it to have 3-4? Let it happen 3 or 4 more times. Like, yeah. I don't get that.
Neither did I. But I gotta say, that's good that they have that rule in there, and the official let them know that if you're not careful, you could end up in deep trouble. So for me, So we touched on all the questions about officials. The fourth down one, I'm inclined to agree that it looked like he made it. It did look like he made it. And the point was well made that the two officials were not parallel with the line. There was one that official had to go around somebody, and the question is, when he was looking at the play, was he looking at it in a dead straight line, right?
Mm. Yeah, no, exactly, right? Like I just felt like those types of plays, it's pretty easy to judge, in my opinion. Like, I don't know. This becomes a case where this is where people really start to get annoyed with the NFL. It's too much of the ref involvement.
Yeah,
in a lot of these things.
Well, while we're on the topic of officiating, the last time Buffalo and Kansas City met in this AFC final, we'll remember that Buffalo had the ball as the clock died to tie the game, and they never saw the football again and lost.
Yep.
And they changed that rule. That was one that that until it happens in a situation like this, I don't think any league's going to do anything about it. It was it was ridiculous, and this time I think part of the undoing of Buffalo, which Kansas City, I don't know. They don't seem to make mistakes, David. And they seem to make the catches when they need them. They make the big plays when they have to. And their opponents this year, through the whole year, have made. We had the squib off the upright. We had so many times that KC won. I don't want to use the term default, but it sure felt like they were winning by default. Their record was very deceptive.
Well, I mean, it's a team that played above expectations in a lot of ways. When you look at how the season went, right? Well, and what I mean by that, like when you look at KC, everyone talked about how they won games, how many close games there were. Both games against the Raiders were by one possession. The Raiders are going for a top 10 pick in the draft this year. They did not, in my opinion, I mean, I don't think I've seen them dominate one single game. Every game I saw them play was close. Every single game they've been in has been a close game. To me, that's why I think people don't respect them as much this year, because they're not doing it in dominant fashion. They're just doing what they need to do in a lot of ways. And in some cases, that's good enough for teams. But from people who are looking at them as defending champions, it's like, well, like, come on, like, really, that's it? That's all it's going to take for them to be in a position to repeat again, is just to do just enough?
Well, there haven't been that many teams in the National Football League that have risen to the level that the Kansas City Chiefs have, championship wise. I mean, it wasn't long ago. The New England Patriots were the same kind of team. And I got to say, there were a lot of resentful people at that time, and there are a lot of resentful people at this time who just go, not again. Come on, let's have somebody different. And there's a lot of that going on, with NFL fans.
Well, I mean, it's just people are very salty, right? Like, because again, you see how they're doing it, how easy they've made it look. It not easy, but like how they're just like, it's not looking. This doesn't look like a championship team as we've cut. Like, you got to think back to like the teams that have won championships, the Patriots, Well, I mean, you can look at
the Giants.
The Giants weren't really that dominant, right?
Cowboys,
Like I look at the Rams,
yeah, they're
right. Like, they're not doing it in a way that you would expect a champion to do it.
Green Bay, teams that dominated. They didn't just win; they dominated. But that isn't Kansas City's fault. I don't think. I think what it is the parity that's in the NFL today that didn't exist in the past. Basically, this is what it gets you, and it's ironic, really, when you think about it. It's ironic. If you're running a league, what do you want more than anything? You want competitiveness. You want you want close games. You want games that finish, at the end, in the dying seconds, the games are decided there, even overtime. And you get that, but when one team's always winning, it seems kind of weird. I don't know if it's the Taylor Swift effect. I don't know. With the officials and with the luck they're having, because they do have a lot of luck. I'm a Kansas City fan. I've been a Kansas City fan for about 10 years now. Mm-hmm. I go back to Dawson and company. Those teams were always fun to watch. They were basically shoot 'em up offenses, right? I really like Kansas City, still do. But I sit here and I go, wow, they're going to win this game again.
Well, until someone stops them, right? Like, that's what you kind of have to expect from them, right?
Absolutely. Well, in that game, what we saw was a quarterback in Buffalo make some really good plays, and his receivers didn't. There was that long throw that he escaped from the crowd, right? Mm-hmm. And threw it into the hands of a receiver, and the receiver didn't catch it. And that was in the dying seconds too. That was, even more than the 4th and inches. That one there was a big play.
The way I see it, it's like as much as we talk about what Kansas City did, we also got to talk about what Buffalo didn't do.
Yeah. What
Because
did
you
they do,
said it.
David?
They had a chance, okay, with the game on the line. Give Kansas City credit. They called a perfect play on defense. Allen still manages to put that ball out there. Receiver has an opportunity to make the catch, and guess what he didn't do? He didn't catch the ball. Right? Dalton Kincaid. When we talk about what this team has done throughout the years to improve the talent on the team, Dalton Kincaid was viewed as one of those players, right? That was going to help them elevate their game. He was a first-round pick. Let's not forget this. How many tight ends get picked in the first round? Very few, because you feel this is a guy who is supposed to be a game-changing talent. And you look at just what has. If you look at why the Bills have not made it, the last person I think a lot of people are going to be pointing fingers to is the quarterback.
The thinnest of margins.
He got the ball out there. They had a chance, and it went through the receiver's arms. Like, I do think that there were some questionable decisions by the Bills, but I also think execution wasn't there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, James Cook did what he needed to do. It's not that that part of their game was no good.
That was the one that to me was the more frustrating. James Cook was having such a good game, and I actually meant to look at the final line for him because
he would go yards.
Okay, well, it's not as much the yards. He had 13 carries, 85 yards, 6.5 average. Okay, then he had another three catches for 49 yards. 2 touchdowns in the game too, by the way. Everybody else behind him. Josh Allen, 11 carries for 69 yards, 3.5 was the average. Ty Johnson, the backup, 6 carries, 19 yards, 3.2 average. Who should have gone the ball more in this game, Frank?
Yeah, that's why I mentioned him.
13 carries. I understand you're trying to keep guys fresh. This is the playoffs. You got to use your horses. Okay? Against Denver, he had 23 carries. Against Baltimore, he had 17. Those 2 games, he averaged fewer yards per carry. Okay? I'm looking at his carries throughout the season. There are a lot of games where he didn't have a lot of carries. But those are also games where he didn't exactly have his best production. His best production actually kind of came when he got more carries than he usually gets. And to me, that was a failure from this team where you have somebody who is producing. Every time he had the ball, majority of the time, the Chiefs didn't have an answer. They rarely had an answer for him. And so that to me was the biggest failure.
So it sounds to me like you're saying you got to take what they give you. And Buffalo didn't. Buffalo didn't take what they were given and didn't take advantage of the opportunities they had. The Buffalo defense was fine. Josh Allen, to me, looked good. He was a little hesitant at the beginning. It looked like he was trying not to make a mistake, and not to be too aggressive. At the end of the game, we talk about that long pass that didn't get caught. That was a desperation throw. It wasn't his aggressiveness talking. That was desperation talking. And he had a really good game. And at the end of the game, when they interviewed him, he was asked a heartbreaking question. I'm paraphrasing here. So, how disappointed are you in losing? I mean, give me a break. And that's
I
probably
love losing, Frank.
One of the first questions, one of the first questions he was asked, I mean, right out of the gate, um, I don't think anybody can doubt how badly he feels, because he is the man in Buffalo. He is the guy that's got to make it happen. And this has got to be frustrating and hard to swallow. So he's learned, he's been better. He's made, he's corrected the mistakes that people have identified in previous, moments of no success, right? He's done a good job of, being very careful how he plays. He's playing within himself. He's playing within the game. He's not forcing things. I don't know how he comes back next year. What does he need to do next year to make it to the AFC final?
To the Super Bowl?
Well, to the next year to get to the AFC final so that he can get to the Super Bowl. Like, what does he have to change in his game? I didn't see anything really in this game that he needs to correct. Everybody talked about KC being the team that, this is probably the least best team of the Kansas City Chiefs in this run, right? But Buffalo played the part instead of Kansas City. And I don't know how that happened.
Big one for me, for him. His team's got to find him better receivers. Matt Collins, amazing. James Cook, really good. Khalil Shakir, not bad. Amari Cooper, brutal. Keon Coleman needs to be better.
Oh my goodness!
But they seriously need to rethink the weapons. They really everyone was talking about the Bills going to be able to still play well after they traded Diggs and things like that. But
yeah,
they gotta improve. I don't know what their cap situation's like, but they seriously. I mean, maybe you start drafting some weapons for Josh Allen, but you know what? It wasn't just that. I really just think that, you know what, you can't just think about how can he get better. It's how do you match up with what the other teams are doing. Because I do think that the defense still needs work. They couldn't get off the field at times against Kansas City. Injuries impacted. I get it, but they gotta just shore up that depth. I look at, yeah, Josh Allen could have made better throws. I'm sure he would have said that. Maybe trust his other playmakers more instead of having to always go for it himself with the ball. But even then, I do think that it comes down to this Bills team just improving, find ways to improve deficiencies in your roster. I don't think Josh Allen is the problem. I never really did think Josh Allen was the problem. I mean, they've been how close, right? So to me, it's not him.
I agree, it's not him, but I also think that to win a championship, this sounds like this is probably championship 101. To win a championship, you have to make big plays. Whether it's the quarterback, whether it's the receiver, whether it's the runner, running back, whether it's a defensive play, there have to be big plays made on the way to winning a championship. You can't get there without big plays. You can't win it without big plays. And it seems to me that, and what we're seeing here, and this is what makes Kansas City so good, is when they need a big play, they get it. And this is what separates them from the rest of the teams. I don't know, moving forward, I don't know, but I do know that Buffalo lacked the big plays. The opportunities for big plays were there. They were there. They were in the hands of the receivers, and they didn't happen. That's sadly for Buffalo fans, and a lot of people in our neighborhood here pull for the Bills, right? They all go to the Bills games. A lot of the Southern Ontario NFL fans follow the Bills. Bills are their team. They're, as little as a half hour away for some, Niagara Falls and that. So, it's literally the local team here in Southern Ontario in the NFL. So there'll be a lot of disappointed fans here in Ontario.
Oh, there's disappointed fans everywhere. I think everyone was cheering for the Bills. The only people cheering for the Chiefs were Chiefs fans. I've heard of people who would never cheer for Buffalo actually were going for Buffalo in this game.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the I cheer for the Chiefs, but I don't have a problem of seeing things. I'm not, but that's the luxury of having a team that's won championships. I can afford to be generous and agree. Yes, the officiating favored Kansas City in a couple of points. They're very slim, like very slim advantages, like you said. Not really. Well, that fourth and inches that one hurt. That one hurt Buffalo. But I think what hurt Buffalo more than anything was their inability to make the big play. That their inability to do that put them in a position where they couldn't win. When you talk about Kansas City, but the game got a little messy, right? And Kansas City came out of that mess that they contributed to in the second half, and just they seemed to do everything right, and Buffalo couldn't do anything right.
Well, I don't know if it was like Buffalo did some right things. It's more so the time of it.
Yeah,
When the time crunch, when it's the crucial end time of the game, Buffalo couldn't make the plays. And that's tough. That is tough when you look at where this game was won and where it was lost. That fourth and inches. I'll say this: the NFL. You are a multi-billion-dollar organization. Tell me that there is no way that you could have found a way for some sort of system that would tell you, why are we looking at these terrible replays to figure out if the ball crossed the line when there's technology now that would tell you it's past the line?
Well, the CFL has a chip in the ball so they can get it returned.
Like, it's absolutely ridiculous that we're still relying on this sort of thing. Like those chain markers, you're telling me that you couldn't have them lined up with a laser, and once the ball, it's the same with the NHL too.
Yeah, the puck crossing the line.
Crossing the line. Like it's not just NFL, it's a lot of these leagues. Cheap. They're too cheap. They rely. They again. I understand you don't want to over rely on technology,
David, I don't disagree that you define it that way. But the other thing is, though, there's this counterintuitive thing where people want machines less involved in the game. They like the human aspect of the game. But I'm inclined to agree with you that let's say that play was a first down.
Mm-hmm.
That made a difference, and the outcome
huge difference. To me, that was a game that changed the game, right? Like Kansas City is now like, we got another possession out of it. I think they went to score. Did they score on that next? I can't remember if they scored on that possession, but it's like you can't give possessions to Kansas City. If they've earned the score, they've earned the score. Don't give them extra chances. Right?
Not when most of us don't want them to win, for goodness sake. Cooperate with us.
Exactly.
I enjoyed the game. I gotta say, I enjoyed the game. The nice thing is that in the past decade plus, the NFL has been wise enough to see what the CFL is doing and copying, imitating the Canadian Football League to ensure that their game is better. I mean, one of the reasons why I think the NFL doesn't want the CFL to go under is because they like the fact that the CFL comes up with these ideas they don't. And if you're an NFL fan and you don't like me saying that, too bad. It's true. The CFL is always ahead of the game. They were ahead of black quarterbacks. They were ahead. And they're still, I still don't like the way they kick in the NFL.
I hate the kickoff.
It's boring. It goes into the end zone. Okay, bring me to the 20-yard line or whatever it is. I'm not a big fan of the kicking game in the NFL. They might as well just take it out. Just place the ball. Don't even bother kicking it. You know, I love the Canadian Football League and the running of the ball back, and sometimes to the end zone. It's such a wonderful part of the game that makes our game better.
Yeah. Well, it's just they found a way to do it safely and make it mean something.
Absolutely. I mean, how many, how many moments that rise up to the same excitement of a kick return for a touchdown in a football game?
Mm-hmm.
How many? I mean, 1, 2? So you're doubling the excitement in a game. And you know what? It's also the not knowing, is this the time he's going to run it back? So yeah, I'm not a big fan of the kicking game in the NFL. But I do really enjoy the game. The game was fun to watch. Then there was the one where where the Buffalo quarterback ran into the. Oh, wait a minute, who was it? Was it Mahommes? It was Mahommes that ran into the end zone. He got clobbered after he crossed the line. That was an interesting situation there. There was no penalty called on that one.
Again, it's one of those things where you really want to call a penalty on every single one.
For me, no. I totally am against that. But I got to say, David, that I do have a soft spot for quarterbacks and keeping them in the game. Being a CFL fan and having witnessed what the absence of the number one quarterback, the lack of. Well, up until recently, the past couple of years, the Canadian Football League's done an incredible job. We see Canadian quarterbacks. They're in training. They go to training camp and they go. They shadow and are in the quarterback room and are learning about being quarterbacks. There's a lot of them now. A lot of young quarterbacks that are Canadian that actually are being considered in the NFL and pretty much guaranteed a job in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, I mean, but at times quarterbacks put themselves in bad situations too. Mahommes is in the last game against the Texans, where he's running, and then guy's coming. Let me see if I can get an extra yard or two. Okay, now I'm going to slide. Now that the defender's about to hit me, but there's a reason why the NFL is like, we are going to be reviewing these a lot more.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Kansas City's moving on to the Super Bowl, and they're going to be playing Philadelphia. That was the other game that was on yesterday. And I have to say, the Giants have the best running game in the NFL today. Oh, wait a second. They traded it away.
Unbelievable.
Being a Giants fan gotta really hurt.
Unbelievable. You cannot.
Dummies. You
have an elite player. Elite. Maybe I don't know if we want to keep this guy. Reap what you sow. Absolute dummies. Dummies.
They hung on to a thinking process, a theory that was rampant in the NFL for a few years, and that is that you can operate your running game by committee. The league forgot about great running backs. Well, guess what? Great running backs are back.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. This is why I probably would have preferred, if this is the way that things are going to go for Buffalo, I probably would have preferred the Ravens. Because maybe the Ravens would have done a better job in game playing against the Chiefs.
And maybe Jackson would have. Maybe he has to get past that little speed bump.
Let's not forget that Buffalo was very close to losing that game against the Ravens.
Absolutely.
It very well could have been the Ravens. And I actually at one point was cheering for the Ravens. I felt the Ravens were a more balanced team. And really it was just, again, it was mistakes. So maybe that's why Buffalo deserved to win. But I felt like they would have given Kansas City a lot harder time. That defense is a lot better than Buffalo's, in my opinion. I feel like the running game, I mean, who would have not have liked to have seen a Super Bowl between Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley? And you got Lamar Jackson against Jalen Hurts. That would have been a way better Super Bowl than having a rematch of a Super Bowl that's likely going to be another ugly one, because that's how the Chiefs like to play.
Before the games this weekend, this Sunday, there was a lot of talk about the great young quarterbacks, of which none of them were a Philadelphia quarterback. And yet, here he sits. Now he's going to take on probably the best quarterback of this generation. I tell you, it has to hurt to be Jalen when it comes to the respect he gets. And you can tell in the interviews that he's not a big fan of how people determine a great quarterback. And he's very pro, hey, look, I do what it takes to win. If we win, that's my thing. That's all I care. I don't care about stats. And you know what? It's a way they could win. I mean, he's got a great opportunity here to change the narrative from exciting young quarterbacks that have got the league by the tail to a quarterback that is well versed in what it takes to win, rather than just look good doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to be a dynamic quarterback. It's another to understand situations and knowing how to win in certain situations. With Jalen Hurts, I mean, I always have a hard time complimenting teams like on the players on the Eagles. But like, you look at this game, when there was plays that needed to be made, he made them. I mean, he made quite a few of them. Let's not forget this team got 55 points, for God's sakes, right?
Yeah,
like, it's just you look at. Everyone talks about, Jalen Hurts doesn't have to really do anything. He's got Saquon Barkley.
Uh-huh.
Well, yeah, but they got other players. AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith.
And their defense.
Yeah, the defense too. I just see, like, what I see with the Eagles. I'm just curious if it's going to be enough to beat Kansas City, right? Just because I don't think the Commanders really gave the Eagles a big of a push as we thought they were going to.
Well, what the Eagles did is that, Washington the week before, five turnovers, yep. And then Washington pulled their own, like they were stuck by their own petard. What they needed to win, they gave Philadelphia.
They did. In a lot of ways, they did. I also just think we're at a point in time now where, yeah, you give it away, but the other team also puts themselves in a position to force you to give it away too.
Absolutely, they do.
Right? Like, look at what, I'll go back just quickly to the Buffalo game. That 4th and 5, right? You knew they had to pass the ball there. So what does Spagnuolo do? I'm going to blitz, but I'm actually going to hold back a bit.
Yeah.
Oh no, now I'm going to send the blitz.
Right.
You put the pressure on that team to make a play. Kansas City was under no pressure to make the play there. All the pressure was on Buffalo.
Unimpeded sack at a very key moment in the game. Well, they're all key moments. Yeah. Back to Barkley. What's so amazing about him, it's just incredible that how defenders can't bring him down. That first run, he was like a pinball machine. It's like a pinball. Yeah, well, there is a football player named Pinball. But he was a lot like that. And I got to tell you, he amazes me with how the strength that he has and the ability he has to run through tackles. And he makes the tackles look so terrible. They look terrible. and he makes defenders look terrible, and the speed and the cuts that he makes. I honestly, David, I don't know if I've seen a running back like that in a while. Have I seen one that runs that fast and changes directions as quickly as he does?
You're not wrong. I don't think you're totally wrong on that, but the offensive line gives him so much space to operate. He's already gotten so much speed and momentum, right? Finds the holes. Kansas City, they're gonna have to really decide: are you gonna focus on Saquon?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're gonna now. That's one thing that's the Eagles are gonna be able to do to them. They're gonna have to make them choose.
And Jalen Hurts, the thinking man's quarterback, is going to be able to use, and that's what makes him so good. He's a thinking quarterback. He's less reactionary. He's more deliberate, and that's what I like about him. And that's what makes him not so popular with a lot of the love the quarterback people.
Yeah, no, but that's kind of been their MO, right?
Absolutely. And they've got revenge on the mind. Remember, they met 2 years ago. And the other thing is, let me see, who's the leading winner of games as a coach in Philadelphia? And what about Kansas City? They're the same guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be a fun game just for that. The Kansas City has probably, I don't think there's a better coach of this generation than him. I don't see it. When you look at what he did with Philly and has done with Kansas City, that's a pretty good run, David.
Oh, I mean, I've always been very jealous of what Andy Reid's been able to do, because don't forget, everyone thought that Andy Reid would never be able to win.
Yeah, he went to Kansas City. There was no Mahommes. That's around the first. I started liking Kansas City again since the '60s, just before he came in.
Yep. Let's not forget, could never win with the Eagles. What happened? He started winning. Right. And so to me, that's where that's been the real change in a lot of ways of what we've seen with Andy Reid. He knows the formula.
He has it figured out. And with every great team, especially teams of this level, the Brady Belichick question, the Andy Reid Mahommes question, they're the same two questions. Which one's is one of them the reason why they're winning? Is it both of them? How much of each creates the winning situation, right? And that's what makes really Kansas City, and that's what makes me respect Andy Reid so much, is that Mahommes came in hot as a quarterback, right? There's the only quarterback that's had a better start from a rookie till now is probably the one in Washington that we'll look 3 or 4 years down the road, and we're going to say, wow, yep, that's one incredible quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, it is a really good quarterback. And a lot of people probably are wondering, could they do this if they didn't have Mahommes?
Yeah. It's the question. Is it Mahommes? Is it, and I think it is Mahommes and Andy Reid, and this is why. They have given up a lot of superior talent over the past few years, and people have predicted doom and gloom for the Kansas City Chiefs, and they've done it without those players. I mean, there's one right now. Where did he go? The former receiver. Where was he?
Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, Tyreek. He's not happy where he is.
Nope.
He left a winning situation, and you can hear him talk about how much he dislikes the fact that his team doesn't have a chance. And, you and I have talked about in various sports, we do hockey stuff together, we do football stuff together. and one thing that we agree on, I know we agree on it, I don't know how forcefully, but I'm going to say it anyway. Sometimes X amount of money, once you get past a certain elevation in money, winning becomes more important, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
he's learning it.
well, the thing is, he's won. Pretty sure he's won. I'm pretty sure he's won.
Yeah, he won with Kansas City.
So, like, he won. They decided to move off him because he's making too much money. That's just unfortunately the where you have to make those decisions as a player, right? What do you truly desire? What do you truly covet? But you know what? Other players, I don't mind what Tom Brady did. Tom Brady's a good example.
Yeah, he's a great example.
He didn't exactly make the most money. He's making good money now, I would say.
Yeah. He's definitely making more money now.
But for him, it was okay. I won. I'm leaving New England, so we're deciding to cut off ties. I'll go somewhere else and win. And he did. That's the true, like, right, and doing it in a way that you're putting yourself in a position where you are going to, and he went to a team that was building towards it.
Yeah,
right.
Well, like you're allowed to identify a team that would be an asset for your future.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is what it's about, right? Like he saw a team in Tampa that he saw a team that, you know what they were missing? They were missing a quarterback. Oh, I'm a quarterback. And he went to the team and they won a Super Bowl, and probably, I guess it was the first time he was drunk and almost threw the Super Bowl in the water. I remember that really well. He deserved that, for all the people who resented his success and didn't appreciate the willingness that he had, to the point that you made, that he could have made a lot more money and could have made it harder to win just by virtue of asking for more money. He decided winning was more important. And then he proved he was a winner. To me, that was the exclamation point. Going to Tampa was the exclamation point in Brady's career that made him the GOAT. He is, and for a while now, he will be the GOAT. There's a young guy named Mahommes who's starting to track that road, right? But still, for now, it is Brady.
It is, and right now, if you're a team right now trying to figure out how do you look at if you're the Bills are the perfect example. How do we win? Okay, look at what Mahommes has done. I mean,
he's done it with he doesn't really have, I think it'd be fair to say that, if you switched quarterbacks, Buffalo and KC, I think KC'd still win. There you go. That's my opinion. That's what I'm saying.
I would think so. But Josh Allen has not played losing football that much.
And he has no less. Well, okay, maybe he does a little bit less of the talent that Mahommes has upstairs, thinking wise. But I think he's developing that, and I think he's a better quarterback between the ears now than he's ever been.
Now, here's a good cautionary tale for a team that overachieved this year, made it to the NFC Championship with a rookie quarterback, and got their butts whooped. Let's be honest. You allow 7 rushing touchdowns,
55 points.
NFL record. What do you have to do now? One thing is understand why it spiraled out of control like it did. You allowed a touchdown on their first offensive play of the game, a 6-yard touchdown. So you gotta be much better in those moments.
And that's coaching.
That's coaching. To me, that's coaching. Jane Daniels probably tried to force a lot of plays. I mean, they had 5 turnovers in that game.
Yeah.
The Eagles, you got to be ready for those ones.
Well, I liked that Washington made it to that point after 40 years, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's a nice story for them.
Right? You're a football writer, right? That's a good story to write about. It almost writes itself.
If I'm being non-biased, yes, it's a good football story.
It's a story.
As a
But
football
unfortunately,
fan of the NFC,
they're in the same division as the Dallas Cowboys.
Frank, every single team now in that conference has made an NFC championship game. You know what team hasn't made it in God knows how many years? Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys. That's a team I used to root for in the 70s. And then they got that owner, and I just didn't like the team anymore. He turned me off.
It's that whole family. I'm realizing today.
Oh,
I don't know
no.
if you saw I don't know if you saw the press conference where they introduced their new coach.
No, I did not. I did not.
The owner's son, Jerry Jones' son.
I heard about it.
What?
But tell us.
He went up. He had the audacity. And he goes, obviously, I'm going to read. This is almost quote for quote. Obviously, we're also valuing where he didn't go right in terms of this drought that people are saying we are in. People aren't saying it.
You're in
the
it.
Cowboys are in this drought. Just like the Commanders were in a drought, but you never heard the owner come out. I mean, especially this
the owner had to sell the team, remember?
Yeah. How do we go about doing that process?
And that's one of my things.
Right? It's the culture too, right?
Absolutely.
That plays a big factor of it all.
The Washington Commanders are a perfect example of my theory. My theory is you need good ownership. And the proof of it is Washington's the proof of it. They got rid of a bad owner. Guess what happened? The team turned around.
Yeah.
Because they ended up with a good owner. And that's a simple reality. In sports, teams don't spend 20 years failing because of the GM or the players. They fail because of the ownership if they're failing for 20 years, 20, 30 years. That's your first clue. It's in every sport. Ownership is the reason why a team is successful. I don't care what anybody says. And that's just me saying that, and I believe it. You know, if you're the Giants, the best you can hope for is new ownership. But when a team makes enough money, regardless of winning, that's how you can't get rid of an owner. The owners, that's what happened in Washington. We know why he ended up leaving. He didn't leave because he wanted to. He was given the boot.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that when you look at the four teams that were in the final four. Even look at the two teams that are in the final. Their owners let the people do what they need to do. They don't meddle. They let the people who are in charge do what they need to do. Yeah, even Buffalo at one point, the owner was getting a little too hands-on. They backed that off and let the people in charge do what they need to do.
That's what in Kansas City, the daughter of the owner has a higher profile than the owner.
Right? You know, I don't hear too much about the Eagles owner.
No.
I don't even remember the Eagles owner's name.
No, you know what? There's a lot of truth to that. And ownership has its rewards for fans. You almost, I toyed with this thought. It's only a toy thought. It's not one that I could even, I'll say it out loud, even though I don't feel comfortable saying it. But I think any team owner that's had a team for 20 years and hasn't made the playoffs should be forced to sell the team. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sticking to it because there's got to be accountability.
I think the NFL should have a rule that you own the team, but should not have
be the GM.
Yeah, owners can't be GMs. And then they'll say, "Oh, but then
don't tell me how to run my team."
Don't tell me how to run my team. Well, guess what? You got to tell the NFL how to do a lot of things.
Well, you're not going to get the owners to agree on that one, right? Because unfortunately, there's only one champ, there's only one champ ordained a year. So there's over 30 other owners that are hoping for next year, and quite a few of them are hoping for this decade, and then there's a few, like it looks like Dallas, they're hoping for this century. It's already David. It's already 25. Mm-hmm. We're 3/4 through this decade. this could be a Hamilton situation going on in Dallas.
But the thing is, it hasn't been complete. It hasn't, like, the Commanders have been a disaster.
Total disaster.
The Cowboys have at least had some levels of competitiveness. And they do have some good, smart football people in there. That I have some belief that maybe they can do this right. I'll give this new coach a chance. I really will. But I really hope that they look at what has happened with the two teams in this in their own division that have gone to the playoffs and understand how they did it. I want them to look at the Chiefs. There's no reason why the Dallas Cowboys can't be the Kansas City Chiefs. There's no reason the Dallas Cowboys can't be the Philadelphia Eagles. There's no reason the Dallas Cowboys can't be, for God's sake, even the Baltimore Ravens or the Buffalo Bills. There's no reason why they can't.
Except for the fact that the Dallas Cowboys.
Except for the fact that there is we are the owners of the biggest team in North American sports.
Yep. And you know it
that's how they have judged their success. We make a lot of money. Everybody talks about the Dallas Cowboys. Everybody can't wait to talk about the Dallas Cowboys.
I blame it on the cheerleaders myself. Growing up, that was the
Have you watched the Netflix series on the cheerleaders?
No, I haven't. Maybe I should. I'll have to check it. Is it called Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders or something?
If you look it up, yeah, you can finally find them there.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
But
I remember them back in the 70s when I was a fan of the team, not because of the cheerleaders. The cheerleaders sort of they cropped up later, but they were everywhere. They were on the Love Boat. They were on all kinds of shows, on TV shows, and that they were so famous. And that really is part of the cachet that was created. They created a lot of cachet that the Cowboys have. And also, it was the players that they had were so American, if I can use that term. The brand of players they had were players. I don't know if it's because they were Dallas Cowboys, but they had a special cachet within the community, within the football community, within society, period. They always had a good reputation. It's not as good now, obviously, only for winning, not personally. Mm-hmm. Winning is a big problem that they have. They can't do it. We're down to the last couple of minutes here, David. This week, there's going to be a lot of Super Bowl talk. There's going to be a lot of interviews. Mm-hmm. Speak to me about what you think of the cattle call that is Super Bowl pre-week.
It's just going to be a lot of pundit. It's just so weird because in the CFL, it goes from championship weekend to
right away.
Game. There's never this break in between.
What do you think of it as a reporter, as a writer, a football writer?
You try to find, how do you find a way to talk about one game for 2 weeks? It's not easy. You got there's no excuse why you can't. If you have stuff to write or say, you got lots of time to do it. But this is also why the NFL offseason is always it's an ongoing cycle. Because everyone's still talking about. You get a really good chance over the next few days to really talk about what just happened before you even have to talk about the game.
Yeah. And the biggest thing that I'll draw from the Super Bowl week when it comes to the media, it is a time for the unavailability historically, where players almost like sarcastically don't answer questions and are difficult. That's one of the biggest things that happens, I think, because they're tired of answering questions. And honestly, how many questions can reporters come up with?
Yeah.
So it gets to be a bit of a drag. It really does become the lull before the storm that is the game. And I'm looking forward to this year's Super Bowl for multiple reasons. I love the idea that you got a rematch between Philly and KC. I think that's awesome myself. And I think I really believe it's going to be a very high majority of people that will be cheering for not for the Chiefs, but for The Eagles. There's going to be a lot of people cheering for the Eagles, and I'm curious. You're the gambling guy. I'm very curious how the money's going to travel in this game.
Well, I'll tell you right now.
Okay.
See here, because I know we're pressed for time, but I'll look at it right now because the Super Bowl odds are up. It's close.
Mm-hmm.
1.5 points.
Wow.
So essentially, it's like who do you think is going to win? Right now, Kansas City's favored.
Right.
So you could all put your money on Kansas City if you really, really want to.
I'm a Kansas City fan, but I might be throwing some money on Philly, and I don't gamble, but I'm starting to think that might be a good.
Patrick Mahommes is plus 105 to win the MVP. Saquon Barkley is 290. There's a little bit of value at Saquon Barkley at 290.
A lot of value, and I don't know how to gamble.
It's decent. It's decent for a player that would be highly favored. But again, right now you're betting on
the
what
win.
Could happen.
Yeah, based on the win, right? Because that if Philly wins, there's a good chance it'll be Barkley. And if it's Kansas City,
I would safely assume that.
Yeah, that's pretty much a go-to move and a go-to thought. All right, real quick, I'm going to steal another minute or two on the Canadian Football League. We're usually here because of that. What's going on in the Canadian Football League that you want to throw out there?
Well, Mike Rose Darius Pickett's back with.
That's right. He signed with Ottawa again
with the Red Blacks, so that's big news for Ottawa. They got a good player back. Hopefully, he's healthy. Adam Bighill.
That was the one. Yeah, and
he's surprised, but not surprised.
He's not retiring. He's grateful for the chance that he had in Winnipeg. Does he go back to BC?
Hey, I don't think it would hurt.
Hey,
there's options. It's gonna be interesting.
How are they at middle linebacker? They've got a great defense. Would it hurt to have him? And
that's a good question. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what their current roster is shaping out to be because they'll have a lot of the old players still there.
He's gonna have to take a haircut, like the one he has on his head.
Yeah. I don't know how their linebacker situation's lined up. But again, if your team,
he's not going to be a full-time guy.
No, but he's a perfect locker room character guy, that leader. He will push
70% of the game.
Yeah, which I think is better than what you'll get from some other guys.
Yeah, and because you'll have him in the locker room, and he's a leader out there as well. You throw him out there when they need a little inspiration. Mm-hmm. It's like we talk about, our favorite number 48 in Toronto. Mm-hmm. Same deal.
He played a good number of snaps, but yeah, like you knew there's a reason why Adam Bighill why it hadn't been the same every time Adam Bighill's gotten hurt. I will say. Yeah. James Letcher's back with the Owls. That's a big
move.
Ryder signed Shane Ray. That's
another one.
I don't think he played for Corey Mace when he was in Toronto. It might have been Corey Mace might have been the year after he was there. So, but that's another decent move. Mike Rose, God, right? Like there's some. I'll give a shout out to Taylor Algersma. That's his name. First U Sports QB to name to the Senior Bowl.
That's right.
We're getting a lot of attention down in the South.
Big kid too. We met him. We talked to him.
Did we talk to him?
Yeah. You missed that.
I missed that one. Yeah.
Yeah. We talked to him. I found out about it while I was sitting at the computer.
Great.
Great. Yeah. Well, you know what? Great quarterback. He was in Toronto. He was in Hamilton. I think he even made it to Winnipeg as a young quarterback. He learned a lot. That's one of the greatest things the Canadian Football League is doing. Young Canadian quarterbacks, giving them a chance to understand the game better, and to understand the playbook. So good for them. Good job by them. Mm-hmm. I think on that happy note, we'll call it a day again.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun using this different application, David, and thank you for helping me offline to make it work. I really appreciate all your help.
No problem, Frank.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. Football is, we got to wait a couple of weeks. I don't like this part at all, but it is what it is. Thanks, buddy. We'll
Have a
see
good
you
one.
again, folks. Enjoy. Candid Frank, 10:30 on YouTube. Have a great day.